We've all been told that the greatest country on earth is America, but apparently the greatest city in America is Baltimore, Maryland. It says so on the benches in the city, Baltimore, greatest city in America. Also, the former governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, said so. Sadly, the greatest city in America is riddled with crime, and city officials seem determined to make sure it stays that way. In this video, we're going to discuss what happens when bad policies allow a vibrant city, the greatest city, to be overrun with theft, assault, and vandalism. Hey, welcome back to the Security Bros. I'm Ken. This is Jimbo James, and some fun facts about Baltimore that you might not have known. Baltimore won the final battle in the American Revolution, actually just down the street from our office here at Fort McHenry. The national anthem was also penned shortly after that by Francis Scott Key. He actually was at the fort when the British arrived on their ships, and he went out, paddled in his rowboat out to meet the admiral of the British fleet. To see if they could just discuss some terms, see if they could work out something. But the admiral said, it's too late. The ships are already getting in place. And he wouldn't even let Francis Scott Key paddle back to the base because he was afraid he would get caught in the crossfire. So he let Francis Scott Key hang out in the captain's quarters and watch the battle. And that's when he saw all the explosions and whatnot. And when the British lost, he paddled back to base. And while he was at his hotel, he had like an envelope or something, and he penned out the Star Spangled Banner, which later on became the national anthem. Pretty cool. That all took place right here in Baltimore. This is also the home of the original Washington Monument. 3, 2, 1. A lot of people don't know this. Right up the street, Charles Street in the Mount Vernon neighborhood, of course. And it wasn't until about 50 years later that the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. was erected. FYI, some people that work around there call that America's penis. Let's see. World Trade Center right here. Also not too far away from a lot of stuff near our office here, but not too far away from the office, right there in the Inner Harbor. World Trade Center built in 1973, same year as the World Trade Center in New York City. We also have the 9th largest shipping port in the U.S. So Baltimore is an old city with a really cool story and plays an important part in the American history, but Baltimore policies allow or even encourage a lot of crime in this city, which is unfortunate because it chases away a lot of business because developers are hesitant to invest in the city. We get a lot of vandalism here. There was recently some vandalism right by the police department headquarters because nobody really gives a crap anymore. They'll just vandalize wherever, even if it's at the police headquarters. The former Baltimore Police Department Deputy Commissioner, Jason Johnson, said, the reality is this is property that is going to have to be repaired or replaced by taxpayers. That's who pays for police vehicles and other equipment. So that's ultimately who pays the price.
Not the criminals.
Not the criminals.
Cool.
Taxpayers.
Good.
Residents. There's another incident recently where $10,000 worth of donated equipment was stolen from a construction project aimed at supporting marginalized groups. So keep in mind, this $10,000 worth, it was like kitchen equipment.
Okay.
You have to get that special industrial stuff. It's very expensive, but it was donated, but then it was also stolen. And there's a quote from that report. While police investigate the theft, community groups are holding fundraisers later this month to help our kitchen replace the items lost.
Well, that's nice.
Somebody donated once. They're hoping somebody will donate again. We also have a local real estate investor having a hard time keeping contractors when the contractors' tools and equipment keep getting stolen from the job site.
Once their tools are stolen, they don't want to come back in this neighborhood.
According to the police report, thieves pried their way into the property and stole ladders, wires, outlets, breakers, tools, windows, and doors. They did leave the walls, so technically the building is still there.
No scrap value in the walls.
According to Rahim of Dolbi Group, the investor, he says,
it's been a roller coaster ride for us, to be honest.
I actually know Rahim. He works near us. Him and his brother, Moby. They're kind of like us. They run a brother team combo. Hank is the business guy like me. Moby, he runs the job sites like James does. And we actually teamed up on a project in Baltimore once. Yeah, good couple guys.
Invest a lot of money in security first, in order to start your work inside the houses. Trust me, they're gonna break in.
Problem is that, Baltimore's ineffective policies cause residents to pay the price here, and businesses pay the price, and consumers pay the price, because with Hank, if his stuff keeps walking off the property, he has to pay for that. But he's in the business of making money, so what's he going to do? He's going to bundle that back into the price that he charges, either for rent or for selling the property, and then the consumer is going to have to pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time we go in, we trying to make the house look beautiful, and we trying to do the rehabs. Again, somebody would come in, vandalize it, break it in.
Right, because the city officials, they're not doing what it takes to solve the issue. They're just leaving it up to police. And the police department does have like a strategy. It's like a 10-page strategy. I read it myself. And most of it is just gestures. Things like, well, if a violent crime happens in this neighborhood, we'll post somebody to just patrol those 4 blocks. Well, it's the police, so they can't deal with the underlying problem. Not like the city officials can. But the city officials, they're more just looking to bring in more revenue. Well, first of all, they're looking at these 13,000, actually it's almost 14,000 vacant properties citywide, because a lot of people are just abandoning property and getting the heck out of here. So you have a lot of properties that have been vacant for a long time. They're not even worth developing. So Baltimore is trying to sell these homes for $1.
Oh, I was wondering if you were going to bring that up, so I looked into that.
Look, the idea is not that they want to sell to people that want to make Baltimore their home or are just looking for a break on like being able to afford a home. It's not for that. It's actually aimed at people that have a lot of money already, and they want to encourage those people to come in and invest. Because to get that home, you have to prove you have $90,000 sitting in the bank in cash. Not only that, but you have to agree to live here for 5 years. So you can't just turn around and rent it out. You actually have to live in that house for 5 years. But here's the thing.
Wouldn't that be somebody who wants to make Baltimore their home, though? Because if you're living there for 5 years, that's kind of...
Right. They want to make sure that you're invested in fixing it up. But if you have $90,000 just in cash, and I don't mean like you went and got a loan and stuck it in the bank, because I talked to a realtor about this. You have to actually have, like, that's your money. If you got $90,000, almost $100,000 sitting around, you're not going to go into one of these dangerous neighborhoods like Hank's talking about, because in this report, one of his fears is like they can just sometimes swing by and set your place on fire. You're really going to put $100,000 of like your savings into a house where people are going to consistently keep ripping the windows and the doors and all of the copper and like just rip it all out of the house. He had to replace his, like just the toilets in the house like several times.
Well, and the problem with where these abandoned places are, a lot of times they're not in the good areas. They're in, like you said, the really bad areas where these people are just coming in and looting them. And they're places where like the houses are caving in and falling apart, and they're not in good areas. So yeah, investing that money, there's a high likelihood that like what happened to Hank is going to happen to you, where your investment is just basically going to get flushed down the toilet.
I saw one of these houses, the entire roof and all the floors were gone. It was just a brick shell, and there was a tree growing through.
I was going to say,
right
I'm seeing trees growing.
Yeah, it's insane. Is that how long these places have been just gutted? I mentioned I was talking to this realtor, and so he was telling me that there are homes in Baltimore available for only $80,000, which I was surprised. I didn't know you could buy any house in this area for $80,000. And then he was saying that they're sitting on the market forever because nobody wants to buy them. And I asked why, and he said, because no one wants to buy a house when they apparently like also have to replace the roof. And so I said, okay, so the house isn't really livable yet. You have to replace the roof. And he was like, yeah. So, I mean, the roof could easily, because the roof could cave in on you at any time. So if the roof cost you another $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to replace, now you're talking about a house that's over $100,000. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, that's still maybe not too bad. So you buy the house for 80, you put 20 grand into it. So now it's 100,000. He was like, yeah, but you also have to replace the electrical. I'm like, wait, you have to replace the electrical? And he said, yeah, because it's that old wiring that you can hardly recognize it as electrical wiring. Okay, fine, so we have to replace that. And he's like, yeah, and also the plumbing. I said, is there anything we don't have to replace in this house?
Full renovation.
Right? And he's like, yeah, of course the walls, because you got to replace all that. You have to tear all the walls out, replace all the stuff, put all new walls in. So I don't know, by the time you're done, you're probably replacing floors too or whatever. If it's that old, you're probably also replacing all of the appliances, if I had to guess.
And then once you're done with that, even if you do get somewhere that's affordable and livable, like you said, the city hasn't really done anything to manage the crime that's going on in Baltimore. So why would you want to move your family into a city where they don't have a handle on the bad behaviors that are happening?
Why?
They cut the power. This is exactly what we're talking about. You're in the middle of a video and they just cut the power on you.
I spoke to the mayor and we were able to get the power back.
I thought my hard drive was making a sound. It's the fizzy bubbles. I was basically just saying that why would you want to bring your family here when the city hasn't gotten a handle on the crime? They're going to spend this money, and even if you find a house for $80,000 to $150,000, it might be a poor investment because either you could be physically hurt or your property that you've spent your hard-earned money on could be damaged or looted or broken into because the city just lets people do crimes and pretty much get away with it. You know, I'm sure people have heard of the squeegee boys, right? The guys that stand on the corner and want to clean your windshield for a couple bucks. You know, it's one thing if they stand there and they want to clean your windshield and they have an offering to provide a service that you may or may not want. The problem I have is they come and they walk in the middle of the street, and before you even give them the go-ahead, they're touching your car, rubbing their thing all over it. If you tell them, no, I don't want it, I've had them literally hit my vehicle with the squeegee because they're upset that I didn't want whatever they were offering me. You know, there was a guy that got killed by one of them right over here on one of the corners a couple blocks away. You know, they posted a cop there for a few months on the corner, just sitting there 24/7. But the thing is, as a whole, they don't tell people, hey, you can't do this on the corner and like get a handle on these people that are on every corner doing this kind of thing. So you drive through the city and you're like, oh, is my vehicle going to get hit today? They don't stop them. The city actually hired people to protect the squeegee boys.
What appears to be a so-called squeegee kid punching the driver of a vehicle in downtown Baltimore.
A violent encounter between a driver and squeegee kid.
It's disappointing.
No, I don't like that.
According to the police report, this all happened after the victim got out of his car to confront the squeegee kid for smacking his window after being asked not to wash the windshield.
The police, they're reactionary. Crime happens, so they
not proactive.
But the city officials, they actively work against the policing efforts by doing things like what happened, the guy you mentioned where the squeegee boy pulls out a gun and shoots the guy. Mm-hmm. Well, it all started from escalation with the mayor spent, I think it was about $2 million to sort of bolster the whole squeegee operation, like encouraging the squeegee entrepreneurship, which only exacerbated.
The same mayor that was laundering money through a children's book?
Correct.
Yeah.
So then she's also running for mayor again, I heard.
Fantastic. I thought she went to jail.
Well, some mayor that embezzled is running for, I don't know if it's her or the other person, but somebody who is embezzling from the city is running again. God's honest truth. That's what we have going on in Baltimore.
Love it.
It's insane. So she puts $2 million into this and then escalates this issue with the squeegee guys. What happens is like he goes to the window, wants to clean it. The guy doesn't want him touching his car. Won't pay for it. Of course, then they hit his car or something like that. And then he gets out because that's what they've done with me. Like they'll clean it. And then if you say, I don't want it. And they say, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And then afterwards they think that you owe money because they did something that you didn't want. I'm not sure how they think that assaulting your vehicle means it like when you don't want it and then getting paid for it is like a legit thing, but somewhere in their head, that's like how it works. And then if you don't pay, then they whack your vehicle or they spray their sludge on it and they walk away. So this guy gets out with a bat, one you mentioned, and then they pull out a gun and they shoot him and he's dead. And so it just absolutely escalated. It was the city officials that made that happen. Like they encouraged this. They didn't make sure that it actually goes away. They made sure that it became a big deal and then someone ends up dying from it. And then the police become, they have to react to it.
Right.
But they're not actually able to stop it. And this is very unfortunate because Baltimore has a lot of potential. That's like everybody that comes here says that. Like, man, this is actually a very cool city. You have very nice people. It's a very non-judgmental city. It's pretty relaxed. It's one of the older cities in the country. Has a lot of history, and you can feel it here.
Some of the buildings are really cool architecturally.
There's a lot of parks, and there's a lot of people that would like to come in and do business here, but the city makes sure that everyone's discouraged from doing business. They'll do things like making some areas historical. If you want to get in, develop a business, you're going to have to fix up the property, and it's going to be like super, super expensive. It would actually be cheaper just to bring it down, which is what people want to do, but it's not worth the money to keep the facade because it's already crumbling down anyway. It's just not structurally sound. And so then you have entire streets that are just boarded up and just, like you said, it's not safe. People can't live there. It's not livable. And the one place that gets fixed up and someone's trying to live in it, That is not
You
safe.
don't want to be that.
You do not want to be living
be
there.
that guy.
Don't be like the one person living on the block and everything else is boarded up. Yeah, it's just not going to work. And that's why we have, there's like 13,760 properties that are just absolutely abandoned.
Sad, man.
It's sad because, you know, they could incentivize people to come in and do stuff. Instead, they incentivize people to leave. And then on top of people already leaving, then they go and they start like pushing up minimum wage in the city. They're pushing it up faster than the state. So it's like, well, people can just, they already are leaving the city. So now they're even more inside. But this is what everybody says. It's almost like the politicians in Baltimore are trying to make sure that Baltimore stays like down here in terms of geography.
Yeah.
It's in a great place. It's got the shipping port. You have the airport, the international airport nearby. We have the train that goes like 3 hours. You can be in New York City, or in like 45 minutes, you can be in Washington, D.C. The people and the businesses here are trying to make it happen.
Right.
Johns Hopkins University, the medical campus, the medical center, a lot of people come here to get medical attention. Unfortunately, a lot of people also get their phones stolen because these guys will run up to you like you're walking back to your car. They run up, bam, right in the face, take your phone. But aside from that, and aside from all the crime and the death and stuff, you can come in and visit.
I was going to say, like, what's some good stuff about Baltimore?
Everybody claims that it's like the best for crab cakes. Supposedly.
You do have good crab cakes. I mean, that's Maryland in general, though. I don't think that's exclusive to Baltimore. Maryland's kind of known for the crab cake deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. We have nice little neighborhoods with a good party scene, a good music scene. We've got good arts. There's several art museums. Thursday nights, it's wine night, so you can drink wine and go
That sounds fun.
tour. We've got like symphony, and there are several theaters for if you enjoy plays. And if you like more of the big production, there's the Hippodrome, which does like your Broadway style stuff. But then there's also the big, where you can watch the monster trucks.
Was it the Royal Farms Arena now?
Is it Royal Farms Arena? Yeah, anyway, arena. I've seen some like Cirque du Soleil there. Whereas if you go to some cities, they're more of a business type of a city. This is a very like livable. Everything's very walkable.
It is
Man.
PFG Bank Arena now.
Oh, okay.
Apparently.
You know, Baltimore definitely has some cool people. I've met an archaeologist. I've met electricians. I've met doctors, lawyers. They'll all socialize with each other, students, whoever. It's a very chill scene. I've joined like volleyball leagues here where you meet up a couple times a week and
Yeah, they do really good
play
bit
a
of
league.
community sports event.
I like Sandlot. So you take off your shoes and you're playing in the sand. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like so we know, and share it so your friends know.
Bye.
Game over.